I'd like to call the March the 26th, 2012 regular meeting of the Frankfort Board of Commissioners to order. For our invocation this evening, we have the Reverend Will Brown, the South Frankfort Presbyterian Church. I'd like for us all to please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Reverend Brown.
Let us pray. Oh God, we thank you for the gift of this city of Frankfort, the capital city of our Commonwealth. We thank you for its beauty and its people and the traditions of service and careful work that make it a good place to live and raise children and work. We thank you for all those who serve this city in any capacity as employees, and we ask that you bless them and give them safety and fulfillment in their work. We pray for the leaders of this city, for the mayor and the city commissioners gathered here, and may you give them all wisdom that the words they speak and the decisions they take may serve the people of Frankfort and may be pleasing in your sight. We ask this in the name of our Lord. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Be seated. Reverend Brown, we thank you for sharing this time with us this evening. We now have roll call.
Commissioner Wilder?
Here.
Commissioner Hedden? Here. Commissioner Turner?
Here.
Commissioner May? Mayor Grant?
Here, we do have a quorum. The first item on the agenda is the minutes. We have the minutes for the February the 20th, 2012 special meeting, February the 20th, 2012 work session, February the 27th, 2012 regular meeting, and the March 5th, 2012 special meeting. We've had opportunity to review the minutes. Do I have any motion regarding the acceptance of the minutes?
Move to accept.
Commissioner Hedden moves for acceptance. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Turner, second. Any discussion, corrections? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hedden? Yes. Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Mayor Grant?
Yes, so the minutes are approved. The next item on the agenda are ceremonial items. So we'll turn it over to our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. We have some fire ceremonial items, and with the ask Chief Posich if he would come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Goins. Tonight we want to recognize one retirement and two promotions in the fire department. I think I'd like to do the retirement first and recognize Lieutenant Tommy Young, if you'd come forward. Tommy's been with us for almost 24 years. He's been kind of a staple, a rock in the fire department. Dependable and reliable is what I think about when I think of Tommy Young. I hate to see him go, but he's moving on to enjoy the retirement that he's earned. We'd like to present him with this plaque that reads, Lieutenant Tommy Young, with appreciation and gratitude for your outstanding work ethics, leadership, and dedication to the citizens of Frankfort and Franklin County for your 23 years and 7 months with Frankfort Fire and EMS, from September 6, 1998 to March 31st, 2012. Thank you so much. And while he's here, well, go ahead and do yours first, Mayor. Okay. I got one of the little things.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Tommy, I just want to present you a certificate of appreciation from the city of Frankfort for all you've done. And I know now, I think now, you're going to go be Andy Mayberry full time, right? Well, thank you so much for your service, and I wish you well in your retirement.
Thank you.
And there's one other thing while I have Tommy up here. I would like to present him with a unit citation award. He's not going to be the only one that gets this and some other awards, but since he's only got tonight and one more shift left with us before he moves on to bigger and better things, I wanted to go ahead and give him this tonight. Tommy and his crew, and along with some other crews, especially worked hard over this past year at Station 2 with some vast improvements, painting, numerous repairs, installing cameras, repaired the drop ceiling, and especially, as Commissioner Wilder knows, that they created that station vegetable garden. So just wanted to recognize him for those efforts that contributed to the overall improvement of the station and boosting the morale of his crew. So there you go, Mr. Young. Appreciate it so much. Best of luck. And next we have 2 fire department promotions. First, I'd like to call up Sergeant Lynn Gillis and his wife. Lynn has been with us almost 10 years.
Yes, sir.
Being promoted tonight from sergeant to the rank of lieutenant as a result of Tommy Young's retiring. So you need to thank Tommy on your way out.
I do every day.
And Lynn, by the way, heads up our dive team as far as the training and keeping everybody up to speed and getting everybody back up to speed. So we really appreciate his efforts. So I'm going to first let his wife pin the badge on him, the lieutenant's badge. And I will take care of your collar pins. Maybe you can turn around so I can see your pretty face. Thank you, sir. Best of luck to you. Congratulations. And next we have one other promotion. Russ Greenwell tonight is being promoted from firefighter paramedic to sergeant. And I think his wife is going to do the honors of pinning his badge on. Russ has been with us over about 11 and a half years, I think, right? Formerly one of our EMS supervisor positions. And he's been one of our premier paramedics from day one. And I already stuck myself. These are a little easier to do. Thank you, sir. Congratulations. Best of luck to you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Good luck with the retirement, Tommy.
Exactly, yes.
Don't stay too busy while retired.
Okay, thank you very much. And congratulations to all of you. Tommy, good luck. Okay, the next item on the agenda are citizens' comments, and most people understand what we will handle this. Any citizen can come and address the commission on any topic, and so we'd like to limit, if you would, presentation to about 5 minutes, and then when you come to speak to us, please identify yourself for the record so we have it recording. So, citizens' comments. Mr. Bullock?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor and members of the commission, my name is Robert Bullock. I'm here representing the Landlords Association of Central Kentucky. At the last work session meeting that I attended, there was a request by the association that the garbage amendment be amended so that the rental property owners will not be required to be responsible for the violations that were committed by their tenants or renters. At that time, a proposal was made instead that this could be amended possibly by allowing for the landlord to get a waiver by the tenant that the tenant would accept responsibility, and then that document would then be sent and given to the city. I took that proposal back to the Landlords Association. We met on the 20th of March. The room that we had was not big enough to handle all the people that came. People were standing out in the halls. The association took in a lot of new members that day. They voted unanimously that they wanted the original proposal being proposed by the Landlords Association instead of the one in which they would have to get the tenants' agreement in order for shifting the burden. And so I'm here to report that to you. I understand that there has been a proposed amendment drafted. I haven't seen that, but that was in keeping with Commissioner Turner's suggestion earlier. I'm just here to tell you that the Landlords Association is sticking with their original proposal and would like the garbage ordinance amended so that they are not responsible for the violations that are committed by their tenants. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Bullock. Does anyone know of any kind of thing that's been put together?
The one document that has been worked on and revised a couple of times would be a document to be signed by a tenant in the event that the commission wants to move in that direction, which would allow the tenant to sign a document indicating that he or she would be responsible for complying with the garbage ordinance. That document has been drafted and tweaked several times. I don't believe it's been presented to the commission yet, though.
I have not.
No, and if I recall correctly, I believe the idea was to have this on our next work session agenda and to have the document available prior to then.
Correct.
Excuse me.
Okay.
And that's in another 2 weeks, I think.
And so, if you will, Mr. Bullock, any other commission wants to say anything but this, we could address that in April?
Yes,
Work session.
April 9th, I think is.
Yes,
the
that's
date
right.
that
It'd be
you had
the
talked
second
about.
Monday.
May I have a copy of the proposed document that the tenant will sign, just to make any suggestions I might have?
I would be uncomfortable providing that to Mr. Bullock until the commission has reviewed it, but that's clearly the commission's call. At this point, it's not subject to open records because it's a preliminary document, but if you all wanted to provide it after you look at it, that's certainly the commission's call.
We have 2 weeks before that meeting. Could we have a chance for the commission to see it? Maybe within next week, then provide you with that?
Yes,
You don't need it tonight necessarily, but just before the meeting.
Yes,
before the
Mr.
9th.
Mayor, what I'm saying is, in case you do enact it,
Yes.
I'd like to be able to make constructive suggestions that, from a landlord's point of view,
Certainly.
which might be of use to you. I'm not looking to sandbag anybody or anything
Yes.
like that.
Well, if you could provide it after we distribute to the commission, and they've seen it, then let Mr. Bullock have access to that?
Yes,
That'd
sir.
be okay with the commission?
I'm okay with that.
I think as long as we've all had a chance to look at it, the landowners and the commission, before we go into the work, before we move on to discussing it. That's pretty
Thank you.
reasonable.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Bullock. Any other citizen comments? Oh, come forth.
Robert Roach. I just had a comment on the sustainability coordinator. I'd emailed you guys about that. Maybe you could give me a clarification, if you could. When the experts spoke 2 weeks ago, prior to today, they talked about a 5% savings. And then during that meeting, some of the commission talked about a 10% savings. And then when we had the work session a week ago today, we talked about 10 to 15% savings. So I guess the question I have is, if fuel costs are $1.3 million, and if your savings, according to the expert, are 5%, which would be $65,000, how are you going to save any money if in fact they're just 5%? And I guess my other question is, if you're going to have to, in the coming years, to save the energy, you're going to have to front a lot of money for various savings, which will pay off down the road, hopefully. So given the city's budget situation, where are they going to get the money for the upfront costs? And when the fruit gets higher up on the tree, are we going to keep the person in that position when we no longer can pay for his savings?
Okay, is the Commissioner Wilder.
There were a few questions in there. I'm happy to
Yeah,
address
more than
what I
one,
can.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Short answer, we've heard a number of estimates on what we could expect a sustainability coordinator to save us within the first year and over the long term. The 5% number has been presented as the kind of very conservative lowball estimate, as in folks were pretty comfortable guaranteeing that we could save at least 5% within the first year. And 5% would roughly break even in terms of the person's salary. There's a catch though, which is that salaries repeat every year, but cost savings can compound over time. So for example, I'm going to shave the numbers for the sake of easy math and explanation. But if we pay somebody $60,000 the first year and they save us $60,000 that year, that's a wash. That's break even. The next year, if they can save an additional $60,000, then that makes the total savings in year 2 $120,000, but we're still just paying them $60,000. So the savings actually stack up on top of each other while the salary just keeps resetting and repeating.
I understand that.
And I'm terribly sorry. I'm happy to answer the rest of your questions. I can't recall them off the top of my head.
Pretty. I guess the only other two things I would have is I think given where we are budget-wise, better be very sure that those savings are there. And I think, like I said, down the road, I think you're going to have to spend a lot of upfront money, and I wonder where that's going to come from besides buying it, because I assume it's big dollars once you start looking at things 3 or 4 years, when it starts to get harder to realize those savings. And as I said when I emailed you guys, I think there's a private sector solution. I realize there's not as much savings to the city, but it gives them all the risk. And given where y'all are right now, I'd be afraid to take any risk. But that's all I got. Go ahead.
Thanks for repeating that, because I think I can address a couple of those concerns. In regards to the private sector solution, that is something that we've talked about and that we've looked at going back to January before last. And it was even discussed by previous commissions. In a nutshell, we could enter into a performance contract with an entity that guarantees our cost savings in return for collecting the receipts on those savings for a set number of years. So in other words, they would guarantee that if we spend X dollars, that we'll save X dollars. If we don't save as much as we spend, then they actually pay out the difference. But the catch is that if we save more than we spend, we don't actually get to keep those savings. We have to pass them along to the company. In a nutshell, they end up taking all the profit for the first number of years in exchange for reducing our exposure risk. But in terms of the companies and professionals that do this across the board, I just got some numbers recently from one of the largest, and they advise and spend about $70 million a year on efficiency. And they do guarantee cost savings in that regard, and they only have to cover the risk. During the last year they were audited, they only had to cover 0.4% of the risk, meaning they were successful 99.6% of the time. You go back for average over the last few years, and the average is closer to 0.6, as in they're successful about 99.4% of the time. But the point is that we have a better than 99% chance of saving money on this, and a less than 1% risk of losing money. And I just don't think it's worth giving a bunch of money to a private company that leaves the city just to avoid that that little 0.5% of risk, we're pretty confident that we can achieve those savings in-house ourselves.
Yeah, but that's not a set dollar amount. That's just what you don't know what the dollars are gonna be.
Understood.
So it's not quite that risk. If it says X, then it's that risk, but you don't know what X is. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out.
Sure.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
There's some others that also have some concerns about this, but in the minority of those. Okay, now any other citizens' comments? Seeing none, then we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is happens to be the ordinances, and Mr. Moore.
Ordinance 4.1 by title, an ordinance amending ordinance number 23, 2011 series, appropriating the revenue to be received by the city of Frankfort for the fiscal year 2011-12. Summary, this ordinance amends the city of Frankfort budget for fiscal year 2011-2012 to include the roof repair for the municipal building. The total cost of the budget amendment ordinance is $130,000. The total contract price is actually $200,000, less the $70,000 energy grant.
And I will entertain any action on ordinance 4.1. We have a motion for approval. Commissioner Wilder, have a second.
I'll second.
Mr. Hedden, any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes, I'm glad to see the roof get done.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Mayor Graham?
Yes, so ordinance 4.1 is adopted. Mr. Moore?
Ordinance 4.2, first reading, and that is an ordinance amending Chapter 37, Personnel, City Employees, Section 37.31 of the City of Frankfort Code of Ordinances. Summary, this ordinance amends Chapter 37, Section 37.31 of the City of Frankfort Code of Ordinances to add the full-time position of Sustainability Coordinator, to add 6 job classifications relating to the Sewer Department, to include classifications with civilian pay grades to accommodate 4 fire department temporary duty assignments, to add a job classification to revise and clarify new duties resulting from consolidation of job responsibilities of E911 emergency management, and to correct typographical errors in said section.
Okay, without objection, we'll accept first reading. Next, we're down to orders. Mr. Goins.
Thank you, Mayor. Order 5.1 is an order concerning appointments to city boards. The Board of Commissioners has requested no less than 5 business days to consider the resumes of individuals to be appointed by the mayor to the Urban Forestry Advisory Board, the Board of Ethics, the Board of Civil Service, the Electric and Water Plant Board of the City of Frankfort, and the Board of Park Commissioners.
Okay, I entertain a motion for approval of order 5.1.
So moved,
All
Mayor.
right, Mr. Turner. Second,
I'll second.
Commissioner Wilder, any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Mayor Graham?
Yes, so order 5.1 is adopted. Next, we're down to resolutions. Mr. Moore.
Thank you. Resolution 6.1, resolution authorizing the filing of an application for 2012 Recreational Trails Program grant funds. Requesting approval to apply for grant funds to build trails that will formalize the new pedestrian entrance to Cove Spring Nature Preserve and to connect the Wilkerson Boulevard Trail to the wetland section of Cove Spring Nature Preserve, and to authorize the mayor to execute all grant documents pertaining to this application. The total cost to complete both portions of the project would be $87,000. Our grant request would be $43,500, and the city would match that with $43,500, which also can be met with in-kind services.
Okay, we have a motion regarding resolution 6.1. Commissioner Wilder, move for adoption. Second.
I'll second that.
Mr. Hayden. Any discussion, questions? Call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Mayor Graham?
Yes, so resolution 6.1 is adopted.
Resolution 6.2, authorizing the filing of an application for 2012 Kentucky Recycling, Household Hazardous Waste, and Mercury Grant with the Kentucky Division of Waste Management Recycling Assistance Section. The Sanitation Department would like to apply for funds for a compactor, a skid steer loader, and a shrink wrap machine, printing, and educational materials. The total cost for these materials would be $78,189. The city is required to have a 25% match for the grant. However, the in-kind personnel costs would cover this.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion pertaining to Resolution 6.2.
So moved, Mayor.
Commissioner Turner, second.
I'll second.
Commissioner Wilder. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Mayor Graham?
Yes, Resolution 6.2 is adopted. Next item on the agenda, it has to do with consent calendar. Mr. Goins.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 7.1, to authorize payment to Patsy Conway, Property Valuation Administrator, for the 2012 City of Frankfort property tax assessments. The purpose of this is to pay the PVA for use of county assessment services for the 2012 ad valorem tax purposes. The invoice from the PVA is $40,000. Item 7.2, to authorize the submission of a continuing application for law enforcement service fee grant funds and authorize the mayor to sign all grant-related documents. This is requesting authorization to submit an application to the Commonwealth of Kentucky Justice and Public Safety Cabinet for approximately $10,000 for law enforcement service fee grant funds to aid in the driving under the influence enforcement overtime and authorize the mayor to sign all grant-related documents. This funding does not require a match from the city. Item 7.3, to authorize the mayor to sign documents related to construction contract with Schroeder Construction for installation of gravity lines in force main for the East Frankfort project for sewer collection system. This would include 3,000 feet of gravity sewer, approximately 14,000 feet of force main to serve the East Frankfort pump station. The change order number 2 covers additional costs that were incurred due to unforeseen field conditions and some material changes to meet sewer department specifications. The total contract amount is unchanged. It's still $3,615,865. Item 7.4, to authorize the mayor to sign a full release of mortgage for property located at 650 Jones Lane for the sewer department. The property owner at 650 Jones Lane signed a promissory note and mortgage and has since paid the amount owed in full for the installation. Item 7.5, to authorize award a professional services contract to Otis Engineering, LLC for the title reports, negotiations, and closings for easement acquisition for the Myrtle Avenue inflow and infiltration reduction project, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents related to this project. Otis has performed easement acquisition services for the sewer department in the past. The fee will be a lump sum of $750 per property with a cap of $20,000. Individual costs for easement acquisitions for each property will be determined during the negotiation process and paid following the signing of each easement. Item 7.6, to authorize award a bid for the mayor to sign all related documents to Source Technologies, LLC to provide odor control services for the west side of Frankfort. This contract will include the rental of new odor control equipment, the chemical to run the odor control, and require Source to perform monthly tests to verify the dosages are correct. This was the lowest responsible bid. It was $143,165.43 for 1 year of service. Item 7.7, to authorize the purchase of a monitoring and alarm system for SSO locations and authorize the mayor to sign all documents related to the purchase. This is for the purchase of 10 ADS flow alert units to be placed at SSO locations for real-time monitoring and overflow alarms and authorize the mayor to sign all documents related to this purchase. This will create an alarm-based monitoring system that will allow for accuracy and reliability in reporting overflow numbers and volumes to the Kentucky Division of Water and EPA, Federal EPA Region Number 4. The cost for the ADS flow alert units is $60,000. Item 7.8, to authorize bidding of a construction contract to repair sewers along Marlowe Court. This contract will fix failing lines and will also help with inflow and infiltration reduction as required by the consent judgment. This project is estimated to cost $160,000 and was not included in the current fiscal year budget. However, the budgeted amounts are included. Item 7.9, to authorize adding additional funds to the agreement with Hazen and Sawyer PSC for design services associated with repairing or replacing the interceptor line from Swaggart Avenue to the Kentucky River, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents related to this project. The total of this project is now $194,700. Item 7.10, to authorize additional funding to the continuing engineering services agreement with Strand Associates Incorporated for engineering services related to the CSO long-term control plan, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents related to this project. This funding increase is in the amount of $50,000. Funds are available. Item 7.11, to authorize additional funds for the agreement with Otis Engineering LLC for the design of gravity sewers along Marlowe Court, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents related to this project. The original contract's $10,000, the amendment's $24,875, so now the total contract is $34,875. Item 7.12, to authorize award of an engineering contract to Otis Engineering LLC for production of drawings and bid documents for retrofitting bypass connections on pump stations, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents related to this project. The total contract amount is not to exceed $4,800. Item 7.13, to authorize the mayor to sign the consent to access property with respect to the former city landfill known as the Mickey McGuire landfill. The Division of Waste Management requires Ken Virons Incorporated to obtain a legal right of entry, granting permission for assessment activities at this closed landfill. Item 7.14, to authorize the mayor to sign full release of mortgage for property located at 10 Jones Lane for the sewer department. This is to pay off their sewer capacity over time. The property owners had signed a promissory note and mortgage and has since paid the full amount owed. Item 7.15 are personnel actions. First two are appointments. The appointment of Timothy Taylor to E911 Telecommunicator 1. Appointment of Sylvia Wilcoxon to E911 Telecommunicator 1. Then we have promotions in the fire department to Floyd Gillis from sergeant to fire lieutenant. Promotion of Russ Greenwell from firefighter EMT 3 to fire sergeant, and the promotion of Brad Parker in Public Works from Public Works Tech 2 to Public Works Tech 3. And we have the retirement of Thomas Young from fire lieutenant. This concludes the consent.
Okay, do I have a motion pertaining to consent calendar?
Move for approval, Mayor.
Okay, move for approval by Commissioner Turner and second by Commissioner Hedden. Any comments? All right, please call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hedden?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Mayor Grant?
Yes, so the consent calendar is adopted. Next item on the agenda are board appointments. There being none this month. Next item, old business. Mr. Goins.
Thank you, Mayor. Old business item 9.1, to authorize execution of a real estate sale and purchase agreement between the City of Frankfort and the Electric and Water Plant Board of the City of Frankfort concerning the sale purchase of up to 30 undeveloped acres of the real property located off US 676, Frankfort, Kentucky, known as the Carpenter Farm, for the amount of $1. By letter dated December 20, 2011, the plant board notified the city that it wished to exercise the option granted it to purchase up to 30 acres on the Carpenter Farm. The option agreement provided for the preparation of a purchase sale agreement. The real estate sales and purchase agreement provides the plant board shall resell the property to the city for the amount of $1 in the event it does not begin construction or relocate its facilities on the property within 3 years of the signing of this agreement. The agreement further provides that should the plant board determine in the future to move its operations from the property and or sell all or part of the property, the city shall have the first right of refusal to purchase that part of the property offered for sale for the amount set forth in any offers received by the plant board.
Okay, do we have a motion pertaining to item 9.1? We got Commissioner Hedden for approval, Commissioner Turner for his second. Any comments? Commissioner Wilder.
If I could speak to this just a little bit. We've taken a fair amount of criticism for offering this piece of land to another government agency for only $1. Just to remind folks as to how we got here, because this was a difficult decision and something we put a lot of thought into. The plant board informed us a while ago that they were considering consolidating all of their entire operations and moving outside of the city. If they had done that, if the plant board had actually left the city limits, then the city of Frankfort stood to lose a substantial amount of occupational tax revenue. And so in order to keep the plant board in the city, we offered them a piece of land for $1 to keep them here. This is a piece of land that we've had on the market for years that we've been trying to sell, that we haven't had any buyers interested in. It's obviously worth more than $1, but frankly I think it would have, in light of all the lost occupational taxes, it would have cost us a lot more than it's worth to hold on to it. So just to remind folks of how we got here.
Okay, thank you. Call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hedden?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Mayor Grant?
Yes, so item 9.1 is adopted. All right, Commissioner Foreman.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 9.2, to authorize contract award of the St. Clair parking garage located at 312, 314, 316, 318 St. Clair Street, and authorize the mayor to sign all documents related to this transaction. The city opened bids for the sale of the St. Clair parking garage on March 15, 2012. Successful bidder was Mike Templeman at a price of $51,500. The buyer agrees to renovate and repair the St. Clair parking garage, excluding the first floor retail space, by no later than September 30 of 2013, with approximately 180 parking spaces ready to use by that date. 35 of the spaces shall be reserved for use at no charge for employees or patrons of the Franklin County Judicial Center. Additionally, the facility shall remain open and available for use as a parking garage for a period of no less than 10 years.
Okay, thank you. Now, do we have a motion pertaining to item 9.2? Commissioner Turner, motion for approval, second.
Second.
Second for Commissioner Wilder. Any discussion?
I just want to add.
Okay, Commissioner Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to add that St. Clair parking garage has been an issue in this community for a few years. There's a feeling downtown that people need more parking options, and the cost to repair the facility as it would be astronomical for the city to incur, especially during these hard budget times. I think having a private investor who's able to build it back up, remodel it, is a blessing. I hope Mr. Templeman will meet the deadline of the September 30th, 2013. And I'm just glad that the city is removing this liability off the books because I think it's something very big. Issues could have come about in the future regarding this garage. So I appreciate all the hard work of staff in getting to this point and look forward to parking in the new revitalized garage downtown. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Rather than paying $2 million to fix this garage, somebody else is going to pay us $50,000 for the privilege. So in terms of getting it fixed, it's for us about as cost effective as it gets, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Hidden.
I hope he can withstand his contract. His past history of buildings, I question selling it to him. However, I hope he can hold up his side of the deal.
Okay. Thank you. I'm grateful, likewise, I'm grateful for Mr. Templeman and also for Mr. Dunn who submitted the bid. And so before when we make this vote, which is going to be positive, we can give 15 cheers. I'm grateful to get this accomplished. Call roll, please.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Mayor Graham?
Yes, so item point 2 is approved. Next item on has to do with new business. Mr. Goins.
Thank you. New business item 10.1, to consider approval of the lowest bid for demolition of the structure and rubbish removal at 844 Kentucky Avenue and to execute the memorandum of agreement. This demolition would be performed by the low bidder, John Feisel, at $9,190 with $2,450 existing in a special account, and the additional $6,750 would have to come from general funds.
Okay, thank you. I do a motion for approval of item 10.1.
So moved, Mayor.
Mr. Turner moves. Second. Mr. Hadden. Any discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Mayor Graham?
Yes, so item 10.1 is adopted. And now we're down to, well, we're still in new business. I want to bring up something on new business. Back when I was running for mayor, of course everybody knows I'm not running for mayor again. But when I was looking at the community, it's so apparent to me that some of the older areas of our city needed some real help. Of course, we've done some things down on Home Street. And Bell Point is an area that I've often thought needed, if something the city could do for these older neighborhoods would be helpful. I know we're hurting for money, and I know there's been discussion about OY and community development block grants, things of this nature. But I would like for us to consider, give some thought to, that if it's at least possible, and maybe some community development block grants funds would be available for us to maybe do something over in the area of Bell Point. Home Street is being upgraded, and it's beginning to look pretty good. And I recall when I was in the General Assembly, and the year was 1995, when there was a discussion at that time about corridors, coming in to our town. And one of the corridors was talking about Home Street, and the other, of course, was the old Lawrenceburg Road. And at that time, the discussion was the state would try to buy up the land on the old Lawrenceburg Road, which I think they have now, with the exception maybe of 2 parcels. And someday that'd be a nice entrance to our city. But the Home Street at the time was discussion about maybe making 2 lanes coming in, 2 lanes going out over against where the railroad line track was against the hill. Of course, finances and things have stopped some of these things. But I know that there's been a developer that has looked at Home Street and looked at that, where things are happening now. that when money becomes available, that Home Street may become more revitalized, you know. Is that a good corridor? And as I look at Bell Point, one of those, you know, those older communities in midst of Mustard Town, that if it at all possible, I would like for us to at least put that on our burner. Now, I understand that the community development block grants applications for next year's funding will be, it's about a 5-month period from around the 1st of April to September 4th or something like that. And I would like to ask Rebecca Hall, who's our grants person, if everybody doesn't know, if could you mind coming up here and let me ask this question for the public? I don't want to get off base or anything here, Rebecca, but does it, in your personal evaluation or opinion, would you think that even has any feasibility?
Yes, those grants are highly competitive. I would say the first thing we need to do if the commission wants to move forward is to do some surveys of those areas to see if it is low to moderate income. And I mean, we can guess that it is, and we can look at census tracts, but overall we'll have to do some surveys down there to make sure that it is before we move forward.
Okay. If in fact that this commission would be in agreement to try to receive this, what would be the first steps?
The survey, and then we have to have public meetings. It's a pretty intensive application, but the surveys would be my first recommendation to make sure that they are low to moderate income, the areas that we want to look at housing.
What kind of a cost would be entailed in that?
I don't know. We would have to put on an RFQ and get some bids in to see how much they would be.
In your just rule of thumb on things like this, are we speaking of like 20,000, 10,000?
No, I don't think it would be that much.
Okay.
Probably the last one we did in Home Street, which would have been a smaller area, and it would have been about 4 years ago, was around $1,500, I think.
Okay. All right, thank you. Would you, Mr. Goins, could we maybe in the future maybe look into this?
Get some cost estimates.
And with the commission, would y'all be willing to look at this?
And if we could have even some preliminary numbers by our next work session, because I believe on our next work session agenda is a discussion of applying essentially for the same grant for a different project. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
So
thought that perhaps maybe
the more
discussed
information
tonight.
we can have by then.
Yeah, I can get a
Sure.
cost estimate for from some consultants on those areas for what the
Right.
surveys would be.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
I have one piece of new business, it'll be quick.
okay, all right, go ahead.
And I'm sorry I didn't ask this in a work session. You know, our recycling rate went up, increased 44% in January, and that's from our recycling. As a general rule, we were bringing in $100,000 a year in recycling revenue. So every 1% increase equals $1,000 annually. So the 44% increase we saw in January amounts, if it holds for the year, will amount to about $44,000 extra dollars annually. I think we all expect that number to keep increasing the deeper we get into the new garbage program. I mean, that was just the first month. I'm curious to know if we have any numbers for February yet. I'm really sorry I didn't ask for these in advance. If we can't get them today, they can wait for the next work session.
Mr. Hackbart, do you have anything to report?
Yes, I'm just going by memory, but the numbers for January, February, and the beginning of March all show that same amount of increase. So we're probably 40 to 50% increase. I think that's held pretty steady. And likewise, the reduction in our garbage at the landfill has shown a large reduction of maybe 25% for the month of February, and I would say likewise for the month of March. So we're seeing both kind of holding steady and increasing as well. So
That's great.
That's great news.
I can't give you the exact numbers, but I can bring those to this work session.
That'd be fine. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
All right, I had one more little item too. Anybody else have this? Okay, I had one more, I just bring up, I think each of us received a little memo from Jen Spangler Williamson pertaining, to the tax credits for property in historical districts. And last Thursday, I had gotten a little email from a resident in historical district South Frankfort, just pertaining to some person who had moved out of one of these homes and would not be coming back in, and some neighbors had went by and cleaned out the apartments and had a lot of things out on the street being picked up. They wanted to make sure it'd be picked up, so it was picked up, but I just took a drive over into the area and was talking with a lady nearby about this house that had no longer going to be utilized right now, and I found out that the bank owns it, his mortgage. They have the mortgage and all, and this lady had mentioned that she had an interest. They didn't have interest in that house, but the cost for upgrading it in the historical district is so much. And her concern was that to sit there and just go down. And it's this little memo from Ms. Williamson was so timely, and of course for the citizens here, it talks about tax credits. You get them from the state and from local government entities, and but anyway, there was one part of her memo in which she stated local incentive programs to help with this. And I know I've had some discussion, and we're going to make some movement on abandoned property, which I think is very positive. It would help get that property back. And I'm just curious, Mr. Moore, is there anything, do you know, in her memo, she was talking about some things maybe that local incentive programs could do, and I would like for us in the near future, if we could, to maybe look at this likewise.
Mayor, the one incentive that we currently have in the ordinances is if you go through the proper application process and you make substantial upgrades to your home, there is the opportunity to get a moratorium of 5 years on the increase in your tax assessment. And Mr. Mueller reported, I think, several weeks ago that there were just only several people had taken advantage of that moratorium opportunity in the last several years, and those had just been commercial entities, although certainly that same opportunity would be, I believe, available to residences.
There may be something we could.
And certainly the federal and the state tax credits are there.
Yes.
And there are CDGB block grants that are available for helping to, rehabilitate neighborhoods, but those are to low and moderate income neighborhoods mainly. And of course, that is something that the city did do in Home Street within the last year. So
that may or may not pertain to say the South Frankfort area?
Right, they may not pertain to the South Frankfort area for two reasons. One, they may not satisfy the low and moderate income requirement, and also the CDBG block grant funding is very competitive, and my understanding is that it is even more competitive now than it was the last year or two, because they've reduced the funding levels up in Washington, D.C. by, I believe the amount was 25%. Now,
That's right. That's correct. Okay. Commissioner.
And in line with that, just to remind everybody that City Solicitor brought to our attention last month another opportunity we have locally that I'm really enthusiastic about, and I seem to have a pretty good response from the Commission. One of the problems we have with dilapidated properties is that they've accumulated a number of liens over time. Those are liens that the city has a hard time collecting, that we often don't collect. But that those liens often make selling the property or purchasing the property cost ineffective, so to speak. Because somebody, let's say a property has fallen into a state of disrepair, when in reality it's only worth $20,000, but it has, I'm making numbers up, let's say it has $20,000 worth of liens on it, and somebody has to buy it for $40,000, and so they've lost $20,000 right there before they even started to work on it. And so it's this paradigm that keeps dilapidated properties from getting fixed or from transferred to owners who would fix them. So one thing that we can do locally is essentially buy the property from people without paying for it. As in where a property owner with a property that has an exorbitant amount of liens on it can transfer that property for the city. All we do in return is remove the liens from the property, and then we can turn around and sell the property to somebody else who would be in a better position to perhaps fix it up, which is pretty win-win. The property owner who's burdened by the liens gets relief. The city collects some money from selling the property at auction as opposed to the liens we aren't collecting. And most importantly, dilapidated properties that are falling into disrepair or even demolition get transferred to folks who can fix them up and get them going again. And as we all know, I mean, one of the best things that we can do economically for any given neighborhood, particularly neighborhoods that have lost some of the luster of their glory days, is take some of the worst properties in the neighborhood and make those properties some of the best. Because when you do that, then not only is the city bringing in more property tax revenue from those properties, but that raises the surrounding property values as well, generating more revenue for the city and also boosting everybody's equity in the area. So that's.
Yeah, I think recently we're at Louisville has done some of those things. I think it's right. But anyway, yeah. But there's some things, in generally speaking, there may be some things that we can do. Put together some things that have to encourage the upgrading of some of the properties here. Okay. All right, guys. I'm going down to adjournment now. Have a motion?
Move for adjournment, Mayor.
A second?
I'll second.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Hadden? Yes. Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Mayor Graham?
Yes.